Is a defending world champion, fighting tonight out of the blue corner. He coming by way of knockout. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the reigning and defending WBA and IBO light heavyweight champion of the world, Dmitry Bivol. IBF Unified Light Heavyweight Champion of the World, Artur Beterbiev.
When two undefeated champions meet, it's not just about winning or losing, it's about making history. That's exactly what happened when Dmitry Bivol faced Artur Beterbiev in a fight that fans had been waiting for. Beterbiev, known for knocking out every opponent who stood in his way, seemed unstoppable. But Bivol had other plans. He didn't just survive Beterbiev's power, he outboxed him, outsmarted him, and showed the world that a true champion isn't defined by knockouts alone. This fight wasn't just another light heavyweight contest. It was a clash between two very different styles and mindsets. On one side, you had Artur Beterbiev, a man with one of the most fearsome reputations in boxing. Every punch he threw seemed to carry the weight of a freight train, and no one had ever gone the distance with him. On the other side was Dmitry Bivol, a precise and patient fighter who had quietly built his own undefeated legacy. Many experts believed Beterbiev's power would be too much, but Bivol wasn't intimidated. He stepped into the ring ready to prove that technique, timing, and ring IQ could overcome brute force. Dmitry Bivol is the type of fighter who doesn't rely on raw power to win fights. Instead, he's built his career on his ability to think several moves ahead of his opponents. His style is centered around precision and control. Bivol's jab is his primary weapon. He uses it not only to score points, but to disrupt his opponent's rhythm and control the distance. His footwork is another key aspect of his game. Rather than standing toe-to-toe and trading punches, Bivol moves in and out of range, making it difficult for opponents to land clean shots. He's also known for his defensive skills. Bivol doesn't just block punches, he anticipates them. He slips, ducks, and pivots at just the right moments, often leaving his opponents swinging at air. But what really sets Bivol apart is his ability to adjust during a fight. He reads his opponent's movements and tendencies, and by the time the middle rounds come around, he's already figured out what works and what doesn't. It's this adaptability that makes him such a dangerous fighter, even without knockout power. Artur Beterbiev, on the other hand, is a completely different type of fighter. His style is built around relentless pressure and overwhelming power. Beterbiev isn't interested in outboxing his opponents. His goal is to break them down, mentally and physically, and finish them with a knockout. From the opening bell, he marches forward, cutting off the ring and forcing his opponents to fight on his terms. Every punch he throws is designed to hurt, and when he gets inside, his short hooks and uppercuts are devastating. What makes Beterbiev even more dangerous is his ability to take a punch. He's willing to absorb shots in order to get into range and land his own. This fearlessness, combined with his knockout power, has led to his perfect record of finishing every opponent before facing Bivol. But there's a risk to this style. By constantly pressing forward and throwing heavy punches, Beterbiev can sometimes leave himself open to counters. And in Bivol, he faced an opponent who was quick enough and smart enough to capitalize on those openings. The first round set the tone for the rest of the fight. Bivol knew that he couldn't let Beterbiev get too close, so he started by establishing his jab early. Every time Beterbiev tried to move forward, Bivol would pop him with a quick jab to the face or body. This wasn't just about landing punches, it was about frustrating Beterbiev, making him think twice about charging in recklessly. At the same time, Bivol kept his guard high and stayed light on his feet, ready to move at a moment's notice. Beterbiev, on the other hand, was doing what he always does, applying pressure. He stalked Bivol around the ring, throwing heavy punches whenever he got close. But Bivol remained calm, blocking most of the shots and making Beterbiev miss with his head movement and footwork. By the end of the round, it was clear that Bivol wasn't going to be an easy target, and Beterbiev would have to work hard to land his big punches. As the fight entered the middle rounds, Bivol began to take control. He had spent the early rounds studying Beterbiev's movements, and by now, he was comfortable with the rhythm of the fight. Beterbiev was still coming forward, throwing his signature power shots, but Bivol had figured out how to deal with them. Instead of backing up in a straight line, which would have allowed Beterbiev to trap him against the ropes, Bivol used lateral movement, stepping to the side and creating new angles for his counters. It was during these rounds that Bivol's counterpunching really started to shine. Every time Beterbiev missed with a big punch, Bivol would quickly fire back with a combination of his own. These weren't knockout punches, but they were clean, sharp, and landed with precision. As Beterbiev became more frustrated, he started to take more risks, throwing wild punches in an attempt to turn the fight around. But this only played into Bivol's hands, as he continued to make Beterbiev miss and pay for his mistakes. By the time round 6 rolled around, it was clear that Bivol had taken control of the fight. Beterbiev was still dangerous, but he wasn't able to land his punches with the same frequency or power that he was known for. Bivol, on the other hand, was landing more and more clean shots, especially as Beterbiev's attacks became more predictable. This round was a turning point. Bivol wasn't just surviving, he was thriving. He was landing combinations and pushing Beterbiev back, something few people expected to see. Beterbiev, for the first time in his career, looked vulnerable. His punches didn't have the same snap, and he was beginning to slow down. Bivol's game plan was working to perfection, and the momentum had clearly shifted in his favor. As the fight moved into the later rounds, Bivol didn't take his foot off the gas. He continued to fight smart, sticking to the strategy that had worked so well throughout the night. He wasn't looking for a knockout, he was looking to win each round, one punch at a time. His defense remained tight, and he continued to frustrate Beterbiev by staying just out of range and landing counters whenever Beterbiev overcommitted. Beterbiev, meanwhile, was running out of ideas. His punches had lost some of their sting, and he couldn't find a way to cut off the ring and trap Bivol. Every time he tried to press forward, Bivol would slip away and land a few more punches. By the time the final bell rang, it was clear to everyone watching that Bivol had done more than enough to win the fight. When the final scores were announced, there was no controversy. Dmitry Bivol had pulled off the upset, defeating the previously undefeated Artur Beterbiev by unanimous decision. Beterbiev, the knockout artist who had never gone the distance before, had finally met his match in Bivol's precision, patience, and strategy. This fight wasn't just about the victory itself. It was a showcase of how brains can beat brawn, how a well-executed game plan can nullify even the most dangerous opponent. Bivol had done what many thought was impossible. He had outboxed the knockout king and walked away with his hand raised. This fight didn't just shake up the light heavyweight division, it sent ripples through the entire boxing world. Before this bout, many considered Artur Beterbiev to be unbeatable, the ultimate force of destruction in the division. His knockout streak was legendary, and most believed that anyone who stepped into the ring with him was destined to fall. But Bivol's victory shattered that aura of invincibility. It proved that no matter how powerful a fighter is, a well-crafted strategy and high-level skills can overcome brute force. This fight also reignited the debate about what makes a fighter truly great. Is it the ability to knock out opponents, or is it the ability to outthink and outmaneuver them? Bivol's win highlighted the importance of technical brilliance in boxing and gave hope to fighters who rely on skill rather than sheer power. Fans and pundits began to see Bivol as not just a champion, but a potential all-time great in the making. After such a monumental victory, the question on everyone's mind is, what's next for Dmitry Bivol? His options are plentiful. With Beterbiev's aura diminished, Bivol stands as the top light heavyweight in the world, and potential super fights with other champions or even a rematch with Beterbiev could be on the horizon. There's also the possibility of Bivol moving up in weight to challenge for titles in the cruiserweight division, adding to his legacy. As for Beterbiev, this defeat will be a test of his character. Will he come back stronger, make adjustments, and reclaim his throne, or will this loss mark the beginning of a decline? Boxing fans are eager to see how the once dominant knockout artist responds to his first taste of defeat. Either way, the aftermath of this fight will shape the future of the light heavyweight division and create intriguing matchups for years to come. Bivol versus Beterbiev will be remembered as a fight where intelligence and technique won over sheer power. Bivol's ability to stick to his game plan, even under the pressure of Beterbiev's relentless attack, proved that a true champion is defined not by how hard they hit, but by how smart they fight.